It's a WRAL weather alert day. We have a level 2 risk for severe storms from the Triangle area southward. I'll show you what time those storms may start where you are.
A grassroots organization is calling for school districts to remove so-called obscene books from North Carolina schools. We'll hear from both sides of the debate.
Also, the man charged in a bus crash that killed 8 and injured more than 40 others is being held without bond. What we learned about his record during his first court appearance today.
Strong to severe storms are likely this afternoon and evening with a level 1 and 2 risk for those severe storms. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us on this WRAL Weather Alert Day. You're looking live at Roxborough. You can see the dark clouds there. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center to show us what's happening now and when you'll see storms where you are.
Here's what's happening on Dual Doppler 5000 radar. This is a live look, and I know your eye is drawn toward that thunderstorm there. That one is moving out of our area, but it did start in our viewing area. It's just sliding east. So we want to look at what's happening back to the west. And right now, things are pretty quiet to our west. This is where some of these storms will start to develop and move across our area later this afternoon. This one has a lot of lightning with it and some heavy rain. I think probably all of us remember all the heavy rain that we saw yesterday. And we didn't see a lot of thunder and lightning from the Triangle area northward, but boy, we did down to the south where we had some tornado warnings. This is a look at the timeline between now and 4 o'clock. We'll see just some isolated to scattered showers or thunderstorms. That severe threat picks up around mid to late afternoon. And once we get past midnight, we should start to dry out a little bit. Here's a look at the big picture. We have a warm front to our south and west. That is pushing across our area. Right back here is where we have some moist, unstable air. This is where we'd have a better chance of having severe storms. And once that warm front moves through, we get into that area where we'll have a better chance of seeing severe storms. The cold front comes through later on this evening and really kicks up that chance. Here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, a few isolated spells, and then they become a bit more numerous around 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and then they're out of here by the time we get to midnight or so. We take a look at that chance again from around mid-afternoon up and through around midnight is when we'll have the best chance of those scattered storms. This isn't the only chance that we'll have this week. We're still watching the weekend for some showers and storms. We'll take a look at that coming up.
We'll get ready for a rocky afternoon and evening. Elizabeth, thank you. And she mentioned the severe weather yesterday that hit the southeastern part of our state. A possible tornado damaged several homes. This is near Whiteville in Columbus County. Look at this video of that twister. This is about an hour south of Fayetteville. Emergency officials say 4 homes were damaged. The National Weather Service is investigating to determine whether this damage was actually caused by a tornado or strong winds. Crews in Raleigh cleared a downed tree on Milburnie Road this morning. The tree came down near North Raleigh Boulevard. They were able to get the road cleared by 5:30 this morning. Officials say yesterday's rain likely played a role in the tree coming down.
Parents are pushing for a statewide solution to ban explicit books in schools. The NC Values Coalition held a news conference calling on lawmakers to create stronger laws to keep books out of the hands of children. WRAL's Julian Grace was at that news conference. He joins us live near the legislative building. Julian, what came out of this?
Well, Jeff, that news conference lasted about 45 minutes. And after it was over, those in the group marched right down this sidewalk with 3,000 petitions in hand to hand over to Speaker Moore. They want Moore to do something more to keep those books out of schools. This is what else we found out. It was quite a crowd when we arrived earlier today. Legislators, parents, and concerned residents attended the news conference. They listened to speakers who shared how explicit books are getting in the hands of children. The group also showed a list of books that are currently accessible to students in the classroom. That is why NC Values Coalition held this news conference asking for more to be done.
And they're young minds. And so what they're doing to young North Carolina citizens is really terrible.
Books or 24 to 25 books in the school system.
All right, coming up later tonight at 4 and 6 o'clock tonight, we speak to a group that is saying these books belong in schools. You'll hear what they have to say in their argument later tonight at 4 and 6.
Julian Grace live in downtown Raleigh for us this noon. Julian, thank you. A new law in Mississippi now requires people to use restrooms and housing at public education institutions that correspond to their gender at birth. Anyone who violates the law could be sued by private parties. But public education institutions and state agencies would be protected from liability. Republican Governor Tate Reeves says the legislation protects girls and women. Meanwhile, the ACLU argues the law targets transgender people for discrimination.
A judge in Johnston County sentenced a man to more than 100 years in prison for sexually abusing children. WRAL's Noah Klein is here now with the crimes this man was convicted of and what else we've learned about him. Noah.
Renee, James Martin pleaded guilty during a pretrial hearing. The sentencing was actually delayed because authorities say he sexually abused children in multiple states. So that gave them time to travel to Johnston County in order to testify. The judge sentenced Martin to a minimum of 125 years, a maximum of 175 years in prison for the crimes. An ADA tells WRAL the state presented evidence in court showing repeated sexual abuse of several children. They were between 4 to 13 years old at the time of that abuse. Take a look at this here. The map, it shows the span of these crimes. The ADA says they happen in not just North Carolina, but also Massachusetts and Kentucky. The prosecutor's office put out this statement saying, quote, the Johnston County District Attorney's Office is pleased with the outcome and the sentence imposed. The ADA says these crimes happened from 2012 through 2021. Renee?
Noah, thanks.
We now know the name of the Cary man charged with a chase that ended in a rollover crash in Wake County. John Leake McLeod faces several traffic violations, including felony fleeing and eluding arrest, as well as possession of marijuana. Highway Patrol says the driver of a 2004 Ford Escape tried to avoid a license checkpoint by Garner police. Officers tried to stop the driver, but the vehicle kept going. The driver threw something out of the window as well. A Wake County deputy picked up the chase after police pulled back from it. That's when the driver crashed. 3 people were taken to local hospitals. A driver who crashed into Fire Station 1 in Apex is now charged with DWI. A spokesperson for the town sent us these photos. Investigators say the driver hit a light post on the opposite side of the street before losing control and hitting a building there. A building inspector says that fire station is safe to use.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have agreed to debate. They accepted an invitation from CNN. That face-off is scheduled to take place June 27th. They've also accepted a second presidential debate. That'll happen September 10th. That will be hosted by ABC. Trump has been pushing for more debates and earlier debates, arguing that voters should be able to see the two men face off before voting begins in September. Biden indicated last week that he was preparing to debate, telling reporters as he was leaving a White House event that he will set it up.
Michelle, thanks. After getting off to a hot start this year, new economic data shows inflation cooled last month in the U.S. WRAL's Chris Lovingood joins us now with how the news is providing a glimmer of hope for all of us. Chris.
Well, Renee, how you view today's CPI report is kind of like the whole glass half empty, glass half full approach. Yes, there were improvements in prices of certain goods such as food, clothing, and furniture. However, those prices didn't change much, and it's definitely not the significant difference many people would prefer to see. So let's first take a look here at how the stock market is reacting to the report's release. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ have risen to all-time highs after the report. Right here, you're seeing the Dow Jones in the green across the board here. But we wanted to also know if you, the consumer, can expect any sort of bigger break in the future. We interviewed economist Gerald Cohen with the Kenan Institute of Private Enterprise. He expects rate cuts at the end of the year and predicts the effect of higher interest rates will carry into what he called a, quote, meaningfully slower economy.
And so the cost of borrowing money, if you're trying to buy a new house or refinance or buy a car or buy, kind of a refrigerator and, take out a loan for it, all of those things are going to remain, the cost of borrowing that money is going to remain high.
Again, not much of a change there. Cohen also noted that inflation is still floating around that 3.5% number, which isn't the 2% number the Fed would prefer. And so he says that's why the Fed is unlikely to lower interest rates.
Not as soon as people would like, but eventually perhaps we'll get there. Chris, thanks.
Today, the Carolina Hurricanes are practicing on home ice at PNC Arena. They're getting ready for a huge Game 6 of the series with the New York Rangers tomorrow night. If they can win that game, they will force a deciding Game 7 Saturday back in New York at Madison Square Garden. Tomorrow night's game starts at 7. After the game, be sure to tune into our exclusive post-game show on WRAL at 11:25. We'll have locker room reaction, comments from head coach Rod Brindamore, and analysis from former Canes player Shane Willis. He'll be in studio with us. It's race week back here at home at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. The NASCAR All-Star Race is back at the historic track for the second year in a row. The action starts today with the late model stock car race. Then it's qualifying on Friday and a live concert from Tim Duggar and Neil McCoy. Truck Series race is on Saturday and the All-Star Race is Sunday.
Next at noon, Boeing is in hot water again. What the Department of Justice says could open up the airline manufacturer to criminal prosecution, and what it could mean to your summer travel plans.
Also, an eclipse of the sun, a geomagnetic storm caused by the sun, and now solar flares. Images of what NASA calls the strongest solar flare ever.
Plus, challenge accepted. President Joe Biden put a debate challenge out there on social media. Former President Donald Trump says he is in.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico is in life-threatening condition right now after he was shot while he was at a political event meeting with supporters. He was shot 4 times. They say he was hit in the stomach. He was airlifted to a hospital. A suspect has been detained, but Fico's party's website is calling the attack an assassination attempt. Nobody else was hurt in this, a motive also not known.
New concerns for air travel just as the summer travel season is heating up. The Justice Department now says Boeing violated a deal that shielded the company from criminal prosecution over 2 fatal accidents involving 737 MAX planes. Morgan Chesky reports the DOJ says it made the discovery while investigating the door blowout on an Alaska Airlines flight.
This morning, more trouble for Boeing. The U.S. government announcing that the aircraft manufacturer can now be prosecuted because the DOJ says it violated an agreement that protected it from criminal charges tied to 2 fatal crashes.
The families who lost their loved ones, hundreds of them, have fought very hard for this day.
In January 2021, Boeing agreed to pay $2.5 billion to settle with the Justice Department. Prosecutors accused the company of concealing information about its 737 MAX plane. After 2 crashes, Lion Air in 2018 and Ethiopian Airlines in 2019, that killed everyone on board. The DOJ now accusing Boeing of failing to design, implement, and enforce a compliance and ethics program to prevent and detect violations of the U.S. fraud laws throughout its operations. Since the agreement, Boeing has come under increasing scrutiny. After that mid-air blowout on a Boeing MAX 9 Alaska Air flight back in January, Boeing grounding its planes at the time to look into the issue, and several whistleblowers coming forward to accuse the company of overlooking issues in manufacturing, which Boeing has denied. And the families of the deadly 2018 and 2019 crashes had been putting pressure on the DOJ.
The Department of Justice to make the right decision, to make sure that nobody else has to go through what we have gone through. Nobody else has to encounter the things that we have encountered.
Boeing confirmed that it had received the notice Tuesday from the DOJ, saying in part, "We believe that we have honored the terms of that agreement and look forward to the opportunity to respond to the department on this issue." This comes amid other concerns for passengers as the summer travel season is heating up. A new report from the FAA saying the air traffic control workforce needs reinforcements. The agency saying it needs more than 3,000 additional controllers, highlighted by a number of recent close calls involving planes nearly colliding due to miscommunications. Now ahead of Memorial Day, the FAA pledging new measures to keep the skies safe.
As Morgan Chesky reporting, the driver of the pickup truck charged with causing a deadly bus crash in Florida appeared before a judge this morning. Brian Howard arrived wearing bandages and a bulletproof vest. He's charged with 8 counts of DUI manslaughter stemming from the crash that killed 8 farm workers and injured dozens more people. Howard has been convicted 20 times since 2003 with cases including careless driving, driving without a license, and leaving the scene of a crash.
The first flight of Boeing's Starliner into space is on hold again. The launch was supposed to happen Friday after a previous delay. Boeing now says engineers are pushing back the mission at least another week after workers found a small helium leak in the service module of the spacecraft. The next possible launch would be Tuesday. Boeing is trying to compete with SpaceX to provide space missions. After causing the stunning display of northern lights this weekend, the sun isn't done yet. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captured this photograph of the strongest solar flare yet. On Tuesday, the solar flare came from the same region that triggered last weekend's geomagnetic storm watch. It was the first in nearly 20 years. The flares usually take place in active regions of the sun that include the presence of strong magnetic fields. Very cool image. And so that's what the sun looks like. I feel like we haven't seen the sun.
I wish I had my solar glasses to see that flare there. That would be pretty cool. If you could
just got these
see
clouds here.
I don't know. We do have clouds. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center because we have this weather alert day.
We do. We may see some sunshine tomorrow, but we're certainly not going to see much of it today. We've had a few isolated showers and thunderstorms popping up this morning. We're about to move into what I would call a juicier air mass, and a cold front coming through will interact with that and bring us a good chance for some severe thunderstorms later on today. We had a storm develop here in our southeast counties. That one's sliding eastward actually toward the coast at this point, but you can see it had some heavy rain and there's a lot of lightning with that. So as our storms start to fire up, we can expect to see frequent lightning and heavy rain like we saw yesterday, the possibility of some wind damage and even some isolated tornadoes. But we're pretty quiet across the viewing area at the moment. Again, there's that system that's sliding east and off toward Kinston and toward the coast. So we're looking at around 4 p.m. to midnight as the best chance, or really the timeline for us to see these severe storms. Damaging winds would be the biggest threat. Some large hail is a possibility. We didn't see any of that yesterday, but we did have the potential for tornadoes. We had several tornado warnings that popped up. We had mostly straight line wind damage, which I'll show you those reports coming up. And of course, we have level 1 risk in our northern counties. It's a level 2 risk in our southern counties. Here's a look at the big picture here. So we do have that WRAL weather alert day. We'll be watching. Sometimes we get an update at around 12:30. In this situation, we're probably not going to come out of this level 2. As a matter of fact, the Storm Prediction Center is looking at the possibility of a watch for part of the southeast. We'll let you know if that includes us coming up. Damaging wind gusts and isolated tornadoes possible with this system. Here's a look at our current situation. We have a warm front lifting across the area, and this is going to be a more unstable air mass on the other side of that front. So as it moves northward, there may be some showers and storms that develop along it, but it's this cold front that's getting ready to move into the mountains that will work with this more unstable air mass to bring us that good chance for some storms later on. This is a look at the storm reports from yesterday. Down in Columbus County, which is down here, the National Weather Service there is out doing a site survey to determine if the damage there was from a tornado. But we didn't end up with any tornado damage in our viewing area. You see the gray circles, that's where we did have wind damage. And of course, wind damage could do, or straight line winds can do as much damage as a tornado. So we'll be watching for that later today. The amounts of rainfall varied widely, any from about half an inch to about 2.5 inches. And it was really, there were some spots where we had as much as 3 to 3.5 inches in terms of the radar estimates. And these are some specifics: about 2.5 inches in Hillsborough, about 2.25 for Pittsburgh and Fuquay-Varina, about 1.5 inches in Rocky Mountain and Fort Liberty. So we had a good soaking, and we're going to talk about how we're looking rainfall-wise coming up in just a little while. Through the afternoon until 3 or 4 o'clock, we're fairly quiet. But after 4 or 5, we begin to see some cells popping up that could produce some severe storms. Right now, we have some dark clouds over Durham, but no rain falling in the viewing area right now. It is 68, and we'll likely see temperatures into the 70s this afternoon. We get a nice dry day tomorrow and most of the day on Friday, but then another system will affect us with some showers and storms over the weekend. We'll take a closer look at that in just a bit.
Elizabeth, thanks. Part of an iconic spot on UNC's campus could be getting a new look. Today at 4, Matt Tallhelm looks at the changes coming to the pit.
Then at 5, hundreds are gathering at the state capitol to put pressure on lawmakers. They want more money dedicated to create safer roads for bicyclists and pedestrians as well. If you're looking for love, you may want to ditch the dating apps and turn to LinkedIn. How some users are finding their person on the social media platform.
No yard, no problem. How some dog owners are finding space for their pups to roam free, courtesy of neighbors. You're looking live at Pinehurst as golfers try to get a round in before the rain comes in. You're watching WRAL News, available on Hulu and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Interest rates on federal student loans is at the highest rate in more than a decade. And the Fed says interest rates will be staying higher for longer than expected. Those are among today's business headlines with Maribel Aber.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says interest rates will be staying higher for a longer period of time than many expected. It's because inflation has proven stubborn, and he said recent inflation reports have been higher than expected, and that means the Fed has to hold rates steady. At the same time, Powell said he doesn't think it's likely the Fed would have to raise rates again as its next move. More Americans are overextended and falling behind on their credit card bills. The percentage of credit card balances in serious delinquency climbed to its highest level since 2012, according to data from the New York Federal Reserve. And overall, credit card balances rose by $129 billion in the first quarter. Balances now total more than $1.1 trillion. The data shows consumers having a hard time keeping up with higher food, gas, and housing costs. Particularly hard hit are Gen Zers, with 1 in 6 being close to exhausting their credit. Federal student loans for undergrads will carry a 6.53% interest rate for the upcoming academic year. That's the highest rate in at least a decade, according to industry experts. It's even higher for parents borrowing so-called plus loans. Those will have a 9.08% interest rate, the highest in at least 20 years. The rate on both is more than a full point higher than those for the current school year, as interest rates overall remain high. Now, rates are set by the U.S. Education Department. They're based in part on the May auction of U.S. Treasury notes. And those are your business headlines. I'm Maribel Aber at the NASDAQ market site.
Beware of tax credit fraud schemes that offer high refund amounts. The IRS says thousands of taxpayers could face prosecution for believing some tax scammers offering secret tricks for refunds. Some scams center on the fuel tax, sick and family leave, or household employment tax credits. Thousands of filers are being investigated, and they'll have to prove eligibility.
Networking platforms like LinkedIn may be better than dating apps for some singles. A recent survey found more than 50% of people between the ages of 20 and 40 had better luck with dating on business networking sites like LinkedIn. The percentage is even higher for people among 35 to 40 years of age. Relationship experts say it makes sense because nearly a quarter of married couples in the U.S. say they found each other through work. Canine owners in one part of Canada can borrow a backyard to let their pups run free. It's all made possible through an app called Sniff Spot. For a fee, pet owners can rent backyards to use for a period of time. It's like a private dog park for dogs who might not be comfortable in a public setting. Sniff Spot users are expected to stay with their dogs and treat the space as if it was their own.
Scoop up the poop. From nurses to firefighters in Wake County looking to fill empty spots to keep the public safe. We'll tell you about 2 opportunities you won't want to miss.
Plus, a list of vice presidential contenders on the Republican side appears to be growing, and each sharing a similar message. Former President Donald Trump is giving no indication, though, who he will choose. And here's a look at your winning NC Education lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your #1 source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Today, the Wake County Sheriff's Office is planning to address staffing shortages. They're holding a career fair to fill much-needed positions to ensure public safety.
WRAL's Kelsey Coffey is outside the Wake County Detention Center, where the career fair is focusing on detention officers and nurses.
The career fair is underway here at the detention center on Hammond Road, so you can see folks are already ready to interview people, and the sheriff's office is looking to fill more than 80 positions. They need 78 detention officers and 13 registered nurses. Sheriff Willie Rose says they assess their staffing levels every 90 days. He says right now, current staff is working overtime to meet demand.
Well, anytime that you're short, that's always a concern that staff could be overworked, and then it can impact the performance on the job as well as things at home.
The sheriff's office is offering $5,000 signing bonuses and $1,000 referral bonuses for both of these positions. You can come here to the career fair until 3 o'clock today, and be sure to bring your ID and your resume. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
And Wake County is also now accepting applications for its fire academy. The application period for Career in a Year opened today and ends June 28th. Graduates will earn EMT and firefighter certifications and will officially begin work with the local fire department upon completion. Members of the current Fire Academy class passed their EMT exams with the highest average scores in the history of the program.
Dress for Success Triangle is adding a second mobile boutique to its fleet, but they've rescheduled a celebration for it. A ribbon cutting was supposed to be held this morning at Rocky Mount Mills, but due to the weather was canceled. No official date has been set, but the team is hopeful it will be in the next few weeks. Once open, the boutique will help women in Eastern North Carolina who may not have transportation to a store to find professional attire. The mobile boutique will also help them with job searches. What does artificial intelligence mean for the future of work and the economy? A summit is happening today in Durham, bringing government leaders, entrepreneurs, and investors together to talk about the impacts of AI. Featured speakers include former CEO of Cisco, John Chambers, and North Carolina Secretary of Technology, Jim Weaver. It's happening at the Central Pine Regional Council offices from 3 to 6:30 p.m.
New information now about the first two debates of the 2024 presidential election season that we told you about at the top of the newscast. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will face off on CNN June 27th. The debate will start at 9 p.m. and will be held in their Atlanta studios without a public audience. The second debate is scheduled for September 10th on ABC. It's not yet clear where that debate will be held or who will moderate. Meanwhile, the former president's criminal trial has turned into an audition of sorts for a parade of would-be running mates. Here's Peter Alexander.
With the Republicans' presumptive presidential nominee on trial and largely off the trail, a growing GOP entourage is flocking to his defense. Allies and some potential VP hopefuls arriving at a New York City fundraiser overnight, and more gathering at the courthouse.
I do have a lot of surrogates, and they are speaking very beautifully.
Including former candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. On Tuesday, the would-be VPs unmistakably dressed alike in those blue suits and red ties the former president favors, all reading from the same playbook, echoing his attacks on the rule of law.
This is some third-rate banana republic. Incidents tying up the president from being out on the campaign trail.
I think it's a sham prosecution.
Also in attendance, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, repeating those unsubstantiated arguments made by the former president.
These are politically motivated trials, and they are a disgrace.
All of it allowing Mr. Trump's allies to attack the judicial system without risking him again violating a gag order, which the judge has warned could mean jail time. The latest polling from 6 battleground states shows Mr. Trump staying ahead, though most of them remain within the margin of error. The latest flashpoint, trade, now getting new traction, with President Biden announcing steep new tariffs on a variety of Chinese products, most notably electric vehicles, to fight what the White House calls unfair trade practices.
It's not competition, it's cheating.
The two rivals trading barbs on the topic.
Because China's eating our lunch.
President Biden responding,
"We've been feeding them a long time."
That's Peter Alexander reporting. At least one Republican senator is calling out the behavior of his fellow Republicans at former President Trump's hush money trial.
Well, you know, there's a level of dignity and decorum that you expect of people who are running for the highest station in the land and going out and prostrating themselves in front of the public to try and apparently curry favor with the person who's our nominee is a little embarrassing.
Now, we should mention Utah Republican Mitt Romney does not plan to run for re-election when his current term ends in 2025.
A new test to detect a life-threatening condition earlier in pregnant women. Why it's a game changer for babies and moms.
Drowning deaths in the U.S. are on the rise. The push for swim lessons right before the start of pool season. When storms roll in, we want to see what's happening in your neighborhood. Be sure it is safe to take pictures or video, and then look for the Report It link on WRAL.com or the WRAL News app. Just moments ago, the UNC Board of Trustees gathered for the first day of their two-day May meeting. It comes 2 days after they held a special meeting where they voted to revoke funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Board committees will meet today to discuss regular business. At tomorrow's full board meeting, we will hear comments from Interim Chancellor Lee Roberts. NC State is challenging a decision to allow outsiders to investigate Poe Hall. Earlier this month, a judge ruled in favor of an NC State alum battling leukemia who petitioned the court to gain access to Poe Hall and depose university leaders. Last year, the university closed the building after several reports of cancer, and testing revealed high levels of toxic chemicals. If granted, the appeal could derail attempts to independently investigate Poe Hall, which some workers and alumni now believe may have caused their cancers and other illnesses.
Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month means a lot to our Teacher of the Week. WRAL's Ken Smith introduces us to a teacher from the Philippines making a difference at J.F. Webb High School in Granville County.
You will see in macro view, this place is flooded by...
In just his first year in the Granville County School District and at J.F. Webb High, Ryan Silva is a bright star among his students. He had an early start as an educator.
When I was at high school, I always found myself teaching my other classmates, and until it becomes a hobby, and then this is what I'm now. I am a teacher now.
Silva is among a core of international teachers in the Granville County School District.
I'm not talking about all the facilities and stuff.
He teaches earth and environmental science at J.F. Webb and is known for treating his students with respect and kindness.
It's fulfilling for every day. Like every time I go home, I feel like, okay, I did my job for today. These are the things that I need to work on and starts a new day tomorrow.
Silva says Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month gives him a chance to share his culture with his students.
It's 12-hour travel. So they get the idea of, oh, this is what we expect from the Philippines. This is what we can visit from the Philippines. And I'm very happy with that.
Mr. Silva,
hi.
You are WRAL's Teacher of the Week. How about a round of applause for Mr. Silva? Ken Smith, WRAL News.
Now, if you'd like to nominate a teacher, go to WRAL.com, enter Teacher of the Week in the search box.
Coming up, as we enter summer, more people will be around pools and the number of drowning deaths is up. We have a look at a unique approach to prevent drowning among kids on the autism spectrum.
And after closing its doors for good, artifacts from the Tropicana Casino and Hotel will be memorialized, where the past of the Las Vegas casino will now live. For the first time, a new screening tool can identify preeclampsia during a pregnant woman's first trimester. LabCorp says it's developed a risk assessment to determine whether someone is more likely to develop the life-threatening complication. Preeclampsia can lead to seizures, stroke, preterm birth, and other serious outcomes. The condition typically develops after 20 weeks of pregnancy. LabCorp says its test can be used between 11 and 14 weeks of gestation. The FDA just approved a new way for women to screen for signs of cervical cancer. Patients using the new method will self-screen with a swab at the doctor's office to test for the HPV virus. It's a new alternative to often uncomfortable pelvic exams. While the first tests are expected to be reserved for clinic use, the manufacturer plans to eventually offer an at-home option.
We're just a little more than a month away from the official start of summer. Health and safety experts, though, recommend using that time to address serious safety concerns around bodies of water. This comes as a new report finds drowning deaths are up. Sean Langale takes a closer look at the data and how a unique program is helping save lives.
With the weather warming up, it's not going to be long until pools, ponds, and oceans are filled with swimmers looking to take a cool dip. But a new report from the CDC reveals drowning deaths are on the rise. From 2020 to 2022, more than 4,500 people drowned each year. That's 500 more per year compared to 2019. Groups who already face elevated risks experience the sharpest increases in drowning deaths. Those include kids ages 1 through 4, people of all races who are 65 and older, and black people of all ages. Before summer hits, reports said swimming lessons can save lives, especially when about 40 million adults do not know how to swim. Meanwhile, researchers at The Ohio State University are using a unique approach to prevent drowning among kids on the autism spectrum.
Drowning is the #1 cause of unintentional death for children on the autism spectrum, up through age 14.
Participants in the program are paired with a personalized swim buddy. The class is then led by an aquatic occupational therapist who covers swimming safety.
Our sessions are between 45 and 50 minutes long for 10 weeks. Everyone makes significant gains in either tolerating the water on their face, learning to hold their breath and go under, being able to tolerate different floating positions.
While not all of the kids learn to swim in the 10 weeks, researchers say the progress they do make helps give families peace of mind.
Decrease stress in taking their children out to community programs, community pools, vacations.
That was Sean Langill reporting. And according to the CDC, certain factors can make drowning more likely, and they include not being able to swim. Proper pool fencing can prevent young children from gaining access to pool areas. Drowning can happen quickly and quietly, especially to unsupervised children. Alcohol impairs balance, coordination, and judgment, and it increases risk-taking behavior. Also factoring in certain medications commonly prescribed for depression, anxiety, and other conditions. It's a nerve-wracking time right now when pools are going to be open. Not today, not a pool day today.
No, definitely not. Storms could roll in later this afternoon, and we could see a repeat of what we saw yesterday with those messy travel conditions. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with the potential for these severe storms.
We're looking at the chance for a watch to be issued. This would be a severe thunderstorm watch. This is where the Storm Prediction Center just lets us know that they're taking a look at which particular area, and then we'll issue that potentially once they've continued to study it and make a decision. So 60% chance that some of our southern counties are in a severe thunderstorm watch, which certainly makes sense. This is the area where we had a number of severe thunderstorm reports. Oh, and look at this. They've just updated the risk level, and they do that sometimes right after 12:30. So the level 1 risk is now down around the Triangle area, and then our southern counties where that watch consideration area is still in that level 2 risk for severe storms. So that's a little bit better look still, that level 2 risk in our southern counties. So we'll see those popping up mid to late afternoon. Damaging winds, large hail, isolated tornadoes are in the potential list for things that could happen later today. This is all going to be due to a cold front. That cold front will come through, and that may bring some showers and thunderstorms with it, with a better chance for severe storms in our southern counties. And we had the cell just pop up and move through. We have a warm front that's lifting northward, and most likely that was popped up by the warm front. The cold front still well to the west, and things are pretty quiet to our west right now. But as we get through the next several hours and that cold front gets closer to us, we see a little more daytime heating, we may have a better chance of those storms popping up. We take a look at our 24-hour rainfall. This spot in particular, we had these red streaks here from Harnett County up through Johnston County, where we ended up with over 2 inches of rain there. Officially at RDU yesterday, it was almost 1.5 inches, and that puts us in a good position. So far for May, we have almost 1.5 inches of rain above normal, and for the year, we're only about 1/2 inch behind. So looking much better now that we got all that rain yesterday. It was anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches as an average. So a few isolated showers pop up over the next few hours. But once we get to mid to late afternoon, we see the cells popping up that could produce some severe weather, and that sticks around until around midnight or maybe just after in some places. We take a look outside. Fayetteville seeing some sunshine peeking through. The more sunshine we see, the better chance that we'll have some thunderstorms. That sunshine, of course, increases the heat energy and lift in the atmosphere. We take a look at Goldsboro, Apex, and Chapel Hill. Not as much sunshine there, but take a look here. This is the satellite image, and you can definitely see some holes in the clouds. Again, the more sunshine we see, the more unstable the atmosphere, and it's a better setup for severe thunderstorms. Okay, we'll have a break tomorrow, and then on Friday, for most of the day, we'll be dry. Late evening, Friday night, we may have some storms. Saturday, we'll probably have some showers in the morning and thunderstorms in the afternoon, and then a small chance of thunderstorms on Sunday. The models are kind of, here and there about what we may end up seeing on Sunday. So kind of back and forth on that. Temperatures stay nice and mild, anywhere from the upper 70s to low 80s, which is normal for this time of year. Once we get past Thursday, our only guaranteed dry days right now are Monday and Tuesday.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Fans of the Lord of the Rings tales can now book a night in the home world of Middle-earth, where you can live like a hobbit when we return.
And here's a look at the winning Mega Millions lottery numbers. Actually, we'll look at the North Carolina education lottery winning numbers. As we wrap up here, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today. Today is a WRAL weather alert day. Most of our area under a level 2 risk for severe weather. Wind damage will be the biggest threat. Isolated tornadoes and pockets of heavy rain will also be possible. The timing of these storms is from 4 to midnight. Stick with our team of meteorologists throughout the day as they track this storm system.
So parents are pushing for a statewide solution to ban explicit books in schools. The NC Values Coalition held a news conference this morning calling on lawmakers to create stronger laws to keep certain books out of the hands of children. The group also showed a list of books that are currently accessible to students in the classroom. On our evening news, hear from those who oppose the book ban.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have both accepted an invitation from CNN to debate. It will happen on June 27. Both men said they've accepted an invitation from ABC to hold a second debate. That will be on September 10th. The networks have not announced the moderators for the debates.
An inn in Bella Vista, California is giving Lord of the Rings fantasy fans a novel getaway. The Burrowdale Inn has 4 Hobbit-inspired homes named and decorated as Rings characters: Merry, Pippin, Sam, and Frodo. The idea can't legally be called the Shire, but that didn't dampen the spirits of these creators.
The glorious past of a Las Vegas casino and hotel now has a new home with a view. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas is now home to 67 years of history about the Tropicana Casino and Hotel. Everything from pamphlets, printed press materials, and other items will now belong to the UNLV Library. The collection will tell the story of its luxury, the gaming, and maybe even about mob connections.
A pampered pooch stole the show in New York, taking the top prize at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. A black miniature poodle named Sage won Best in Show. The 3-year-old from Houston was clearly a crowd favorite. Sage represented the non-sporting group and becomes the 11th poodle to win Best in Show honors in the dog show's 148-year history. She's also the first miniature poodle to win the prize in 22 years.
Little dog, but big bouffant. If you're looking for a handsome lap cat, look no further. Tim is a 4-year-old male tuxedo short hair from Cat Angels NC. He loves to be involved in whatever's happening in the house. It's even better if he can sit and snuggle in your lap at the same time. He does get along well with other cats, loves treats, and he would love to find a home with a good window seat so he can keep up his bird watching. If you'd like to bring this handsome boy home to snuggle on the couch with you, fill out an application on the Cat Angels website. That's catangelsnc.org.
Look no further. I like what you did there. Lawmakers want to make air travel safer. Ahead on our news at 4, what's inside the bill to reauthorize the Federal Aviation Administration and how it could change how you fly in the future.
NBC News Daily is next on WRAL, your next local news update in 30 minutes.
You can always get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Careful of that incoming weather a little bit later today. Have a good one.
Stay safe with the latest WRAL Weather Alert Day info. Get up to the minute weather and traffic conditions when you get in your car. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM, in Durham 96.5 FM, and everywhere on 101.5 HD3.